Hola a todos y bienvenidos a un nuevo video de Camino al Regreso. En esta ocasión haremos un video muy dinámico con muchos fragmentos de otros videos y hablaremos de un tema que tiene relevancia en muchos frentes, el cual tiene que ver con el término proveniente del inglés, woke, y sus implicaciones a nivel de diversidad, inclusión, así como la forma que estos términos están impactando a la sociedad, al mundo laboral, al entretenimiento, entre otros temas. Antes de empezar con este tema, te sugerimos que te des una vuelta por los demás videos de este canal porque tenemos muchos testimonios y estudios interesantes, a los cuales te pedimos que les des tu consideración. También visita nuestro blog en www.caminoalregreso.org porque tenemos más artículos de cosas que tal vez no encuentres en este canal. Y por supuesto, dale like, suscríbete y comparte nuestros videos para que podamos llegar a más personas. Bueno, pues empecemos este video por definir qué es ese término de woke, ya que si lo traducimos al español, esta palabra quiere decir despierto. Y es interesante para todos los que salimos de la nueva era que esta palabra del despertar es una de las palabras clave que forma parte de la programación mental de la nueva era. Para todo hablan del despertar de la conciencia, de que los demás están dormidos y ellos están despiertos. En este video verás cómo muchas personas utilizan el término de despertar en relación con todo este movimiento woke, del cual la mitad del mundo se precia de estar woke o despierto, mientras que la otra mitad está empezando a cansarse de la cultura woke, y con eso no nos referimos solo a los cristianos, sino a muchas otras personas de diferentes puntos de vista que también se expresan claramente en contra de esta ideología. El término de woke tiene sus orígenes en el eslogan que fue utilizado por la comunidad negra, Stay Woke, que se convirtió en una consigna para aquellos que eran conscientes de sí mismos y para aquellos que cuestionaban el paradigma dominante y luchaban por algo mejor. Se popularizó como un llamado a la acción que iba de la mano con el movimiento de Black Lives Matter. De este tema de Black Lives Matter ya tenemos un video en el canal que es el que aparece en este momento en la pantalla. Sin embargo, la idea de despertar y permanecer despierto ha adquirido un significado diferente y más complejo desde que comenzó a difundirse en las redes sociales. Para el año 2010, la palabra woke se convirtió en un término que estaba estrechamente asociado con la política de izquierda, las causas socialmente liberales, el feminismo, el activismo LGBT y la equidad racial. La definición en el diccionario de Oxford cambió su definición, la que originalmente decía que woke significaba estar alerta a la injusticia en la sociedad, especialmente al racismo, y ahora la define como el acto de ser muy pretencioso sobre cuánto te importa un problema social. La implicación de woke como despertar o estar despierto está inherentemente conectada con la identidad de la izquierda. Y esto no nos debe de sorprender. En esta comunidad hemos estudiado la agenda de la izquierda contra la derecha, y la izquierda pagana liberal obviamente tenía que adoptar términos que en cierta manera se conectan con las creencias de la nueva era. Vamos a dejarte una liga en la cajita de la descripción de este video sobre un artículo que hicimos relacionado a la agenda de la izquierda y la derecha, que pensamos te podrá resultar interesante. La creencia en la justicia social pretende hacernos a nosotros como humanos ser juez y parte, y por supuesto, suprime cualquier autoridad de un Dios creador o de su palabra en nuestras vidas. En lugar de confrontar los problemas culturales a través de la discusión, el debate o la protesta, la gente woke o despierta ahora busca intimidar a sus detractores para que se callen. Esto, junto con los discursos de odio y la imposición de sus ideologías a los demás, es lo que resume la cultura woke de hoy. El movimiento woke es un culto que pretende tomar la delantera moral en ciertas situaciones, pero está impulsado por el marxismo y por lo tanto prospera al crear conflictos y desarrollar un entorno de confrontación. Ha producido la cultura de la cancelación y utiliza la corrección política para deconstruir el lenguaje tal como ha existido durante los últimos miles de años. La agenda woke ha sido descrita como un virus que socava la individualidad, la libertad de expresión y el derecho a expresar la propia opinión. En resumen, el movimiento woke es solo una declaración autoproclamada y condescendiente de superioridad de cualquiera que esté de acuerdo con el dogma izquierdista y generalmente se mezcla con ataques exagerados y despectivos contra cualquiera que cuestione sus dogmas. El movimiento woke está estrechamente relacionado con los siguientes elementos que te vamos a compartir. La cultura de la cancelación. La cultura de la cancelación es un neologismo que designa a un cierto fenómeno extendido de retirar el apoyo, ya sea moral, como financiero, digital e incluso social, a aquellas personas o organizaciones que se consideran inadmisibles, ello como consecuencia de determinados comentarios o acciones, independientemente de la veracidad o falsedad de estos. Arrogancia y superioridad. Creo que nos hemos dado cuenta de la forma airada que las personas que están metidas en este tipo de movimiento responden. Un ejemplo reciente y que veremos más a fondo un poco más adelante fueron los comentarios de ataque de parte de Disney a los fans y seguidores tanto de la franquicia de Star Wars como de Marvel, cuando se quejaron de una imposición de la agenda woke en las series y películas. Las redes sociales manejadas por Disney se fueron contra toda persona que los cuestionara y de muy mala forma. Excesivo emocionalismo y rechazo de la lógica, la ciencia o lo racional. Por ejemplo, el apoyo a un niño trans que quiere ser mujer, los supuestos sentimientos de que es una víctima y no tomar en cuenta la ciencia detrás de su género, sus hormonas y el cuerpo en el que nació, o los daños a largo plazo de cambiar artificialmente de género. La idea de que el género es un concepto fluido, así como promover el feminismo tóxico. En este aspecto tenemos la ideología de género, que tú escoges tu género o tu sexo, y la agenda de poner a las mujeres como superiores ante los hombres, lo cual podemos ver claramente en las películas y series de Marvel y de Disney, donde se ha dado énfasis a las superheroínas para que hagan lo mismo o hasta sean mejores que los héroes varones. La idea de que está bien ser racista contra la gente blanca, pero no contra la gente de color. También lo hemos visto en películas, como por ejemplo la reciente película de Lightyear, donde el hombre blanco termina siendo un papanatas y siempre es rescatado o ayudado por una mujer o un personaje de color. En el caso de esta película, era una mujer de color y además lesbiana, así que mataron 3 pájaros de un solo tiro. El resurgimiento del comunismo. Bueno, esto lo estamos viendo claramente a nivel político en la mayoría de los países latinoamericanos, y aunque este canal no se mete con temas de política, era importante hacer esta observación. La falta de capacidad de considerar hechos objetivos por encima de las ideas o sentimientos personales. Todo es sentimentalismo, todo es herir los sentimientos de la otra persona. Actualmente es un ataque decirle a un hombre que es hombre, aunque se vista como mujer, etc. Un rechazo sistemático al matrimonio heterosexual, la familia tradicional y la crianza tradicional de hijos, así como apoyar al aborto. Es muy obvia la promoción del matrimonio gay, el aborto, el darle a entender a la mujer que debe aspirar a hacer lo mismo que un hombre y que quedarse a criar hijos es un fracaso, cuando en realidad es un factor clave en la formación de los hijos en sus primeros años de vida. Los pedófilos están estigmatizados y las personas atraídas a los menores son esencialmente buenas y merecen compasión. Ya lo vimos en una charla que dieron los de TED, en la cual la ponente defiende y victimiza a los pedófilos. Las mujeres trans deben ingresar a los deportes femeninos, al igual que deben tener acceso a baños o lugares específicos para mujeres y viceversa. Se sabe de múltiples casos de hombres que no daban una en cierto deporte, se hacen mujer para entrar a las ligas femeninas y ahí sí ganan. La lógica y la razón se dan un tiro en la cabeza con este tipo de situaciones. Los blancos son colonialistas malvados y deben arrepentirse de su pecado original a través de reparaciones y lealtad. Por ahí tenemos algunos políticos exigiendo que países como España se disculpen por la conquista. Lo dejaremos hasta ahí. El cristianismo es malo, pero todas las demás religiones son cultura. Y esto lo hemos vivido directamente en esta comunidad. Le dices a un progre que haces yoga, que meditas, que te vas a ir al Tíbet a un retiro y se caen de felicitaciones y de entusiasmo. Pero si les dices a un progre que eres cristiano, te juzgan, ya sea a escondidas o en tu cara. Y esto nos lleva a paganismo, brujería, todo lo que no sea cristianismo ni la Biblia. Lo único que se repele automáticamente es la palabra de Dios y curiosamente la brujería es bien tolerada y hasta promocionada. Y finalmente, todas las empresas deben cumplir con cuotas de minorías entre su personal, y esas cuotas tratan de equilibrar los últimos 300 años. Sobre este tema vamos ahora a escuchar un testimonio que recibimos recientemente al respecto de la cultura woke en el trabajo, el cual nos dejará totalmente claro este punto final.
Quisiera compartir un poco de mi experiencia como profesional en el área de recursos humanos, y sobre lo que respecta a diversidad e inclusión, así como ciertos patrones muy preocupantes que he estado notando en las empresas para las cuales trabajo. Trabajo muy de cerca con empresas que se dedican a la certificación internacional de buenas prácticas en recursos humanos. Muchas grandes transnacionales buscan estas certificaciones para demostrar que son buenos lugares para trabajar, mejorar su marca empleadora y atraer talento a sus empresas. Muchas de las cosas que se promueven en estas certificaciones son buenas y tienen todo mi apoyo. Por ejemplo, ofrecer periodos extendidos de maternidad y paternidad, ser más inclusivos con mujeres o personas discapacitadas, cuidar el bienestar de los empleados, entre otros temas. Sin embargo, dentro del tema de diversidad e inclusión, se ha ido infiltrando como la humedad la ideología de género, y basta con darse una vuelta a LinkedIn, la red social enfocada al desarrollo y comunicación profesional, para verlo en todo su esplendor. Muchas personas están siguiendo la moda de aclarar su género o preferencia poniendo en su perfil ella, she o él, him, reforzando las ideas de que uno decide su género. Incluso pueden usar el ellos, them, they, y eso se está poniendo de moda, con grandes cantidades de personas agregando eso a su firma profesional, como un modo de respaldar la agenda de ideología de género. El apoyo a la comunidad LGBT se ha integrado como parte de la inclusión y diversidad, considerándolos como una minoría que debe ser representada en las empresas si es que quieren ser certificadas, pero para como estoy viendo, será pronto que dejarán de ser una minoría, y eventualmente aquellos que no estemos de acuerdo con ese estilo de vida pasaremos a ser la minoría. Me pregunto si llega a ser ese el caso, si las empresas entonces nos darán una voz y crearán el mes del orgullo heterosexual. Muchas empresas establecen cuotas para emplear mujeres, personas discapacitadas e incluso personas LGBT. Mi punto de vista como profesional de recursos humanos es que siempre se debe contratar a la mejor persona, sin considerar su género, edad, raza, religión o preferencia sexual. Esta última considero es algo que se debe quedar fuera del entorno de trabajo, y solo en su vida privada. Pero lo que estoy viendo va mucho más allá de la inclusión, y pasa a ser una imposición de ciertas creencias progresistas sobre todos los empleados de una empresa, para claramente hacer que todos estén de acuerdo con cierto estilo de vida. Los logotipos empresariales cambian en junio para agregar la bandera de colores. Las empresas crean activaciones para festejar el mes del orgullo. Algunas empresas hacen celebraciones y fiestas al respecto. Incluso en otras cambian el fondo de pantalla de los empleados para poner la bandera gay. Y mientras tanto, no se crea nada para el orgullo heterosexual, el Día de la Familia, ni siquiera el Día de la Madre o del Padre se festejan con tanto énfasis. Siempre he puesto por delante ser fiel a mis valores y creencias, por lo tanto ha sido muy complicado lidiar con esta situación de una manera profesional. Hablando con uno de mis clientes de las empresas certificadoras al respecto, cuando le comenté que podría existir incomodidad, porque en todo este empuje de la celebración por el estilo de vida LGBT, se están olvidando de que hay muchos empleados que no están de acuerdo, y que toda esta celebración y promoción se considera como un ataque a sus creencias, lo cual finalmente deteriora el ambiente laboral, obtuve una respuesta muy significativa. Él me respondió que si una empresa no se acopla a su agenda, efectivamente, usó la palabra agenda, entonces que no les interesa hacer negocios con esa empresa. Esto me dejó fría, y me animó a escribir este testimonio. En contraste, otro de mis clientes mantuvo una postura muy diferente al respecto de este tema. Aunque una de las directoras de la empresa es pareja de otra mujer, jamás se ha impuesto el tema dentro de la empresa. No se hizo ninguna celebración del mes del orgullo, ni se puso la bandera de colores en las instalaciones o el logotipo, ni se hizo ninguna promoción al respecto. Los empleados se sienten seguros dentro del ambiente laboral al no sentirse adoctrinados de ninguna manera, en un ambiente totalmente neutral. Me gustaría que tocaran este tema, la forma como las empresas están fomentando este masivo adoctrinamiento. Insisto que mi postura es que la vida sexual de un empleado debe ser privada y personal, y no debe ser parte de la vida laboral en una empresa, ni debe ser promovida a los demás empleados, tal como se cuida de no imponer una religión o un partido político a los empleados. Yo soy cristiana y oro porque las personas que están pasando por una confusión de género, o por una vida en la homosexualidad, encuentren a Cristo y con ello puedan renovar su mente. Sin embargo, como profesionales de recursos humanos tenemos que tener mucho cuidado en no caer en agendas políticas o progresistas, impuestas por intereses ajenos a los de la empresa.
Bueno, pues lo que esta chica nos comenta es algo que simplemente visitando LinkedIn podemos ver cómo se esparce como hierba mala. Muchísimas de las empresas más grandes a nivel internacional se están uniendo al movimiento woke. Estas son compañías que en su mayoría fueron adoctrinadas en una ideología marxista, pero hay muchas otras que las siguen solo porque son grandes, porque están haciendo de esto una moda o porque quienes quieren hacer negocios con ellas quieren quedar bien. Vamos ahora a ver un clip subtitulado con el comentario de un reconocido presentador en los Estados Unidos, Bill Maher, quien recientemente habló precisamente de este tema con relación a los premios Oscar y las políticas impuestas por la Academia para nominar películas. Les avisamos, para que no haya engaño, que Bill Maher es un izquierdista y totalmente anticristiano, pero cuando alguien de izquierda comienza a criticar las propias agendas woke de los izquierdistas, entonces sabemos que no somos los únicos en darnos cuenta de la agenda.
If you missed it last week, because the state was on fire, the Oscars thought it would be a good time to announce a new set of requirements for Best Picture nominees that are based on fulfilling diversity quotas. The Academy is not exactly unknown for rewarding liberal virtue. They should call Best Picture most worthy. Look at the contenders and winners in recent years. Been nominated not by their popularity with audiences, but by diversity and virtue signaling. Green Book, Parasite, Shape of Water, Boys Don't Cry, A Beautiful Mind, Moonlight, Frida, Fences, Precious, Dallas Buyers Club, 12 Years a Slave, Roma, The Hours, Brokeback Mountain, Call Me By Your Name, and many more. Some very fine movies, but getting super liberals to be more liberal is not exactly the heavy lifting in the fight against racism. By the way, there was a straight white guy who was a big winner one year, but it was only because he had a crippling speech impediment. Anyway, what the new rules say is to be eligible to compete for Best Picture, a film must meet the standards of 2 of 4 new inclusion groups. Group A storyline that centers on or a star that represents an underrepresented identity group, or 30% of minor roles from 2 underrepresented identity groups, which include Asian, Hispanic, Latinx, Black, African American, Indigenous, Native American, Alaskan Native, Middle Eastern, North African, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander, women, LGBTQ plus people, people with cognitive or physical disabilities, or who are deaf or hard of hearing. Whew, wouldn't it just be easier to say not Chris Pine? And that's only Group A. Then there's stuff, worthy goals, I'm sure, about diversity in the production company, the studio, and the crew. Cameron Diaz is Cuban on her grandfather's side. Is that Latina enough? Clint Eastwood is 200 years old. Does that count as a handicap? Does that count as a handicap? Darth Vader is voiced by a black man, but when they took off his helmet, the character was white. How many points is that? I want to know so I can be good. Because we are talking about a world where if you want to make the next Schindler's List, the first thing you'll need to do is give a racial breakdown of all your employees. Does anyone see the irony in that? At the end of the day, people don't want to be hired because they filled the quota. They want to be... They want to be hired because they're good, and most of them are.
Hablemos ahora de la agenda woke en los medios masivos, por ejemplo, en Disney y Star Wars. Siempre nos dicen que como cristianos estamos exagerando. Así que para este video decidimos probar algo diferente. Siguiendo con la premisa de que queremos en este video compartir lo que muchas personas que ni siquiera se identifican como cristianas están diciendo y que encaja exactamente con nuestras advertencias, veremos ahora varios clips de youtubers no cristianos que incluso ellos detallan la forma como Disney está de lleno en esta agenda woke. El movimiento woke está en Marvel, en las películas de Pixar, así como en las de Star Wars, que por cierto, los mismos fans ya le pusieron a la más reciente serie Obi-Woke Kenobi, en lugar de Obi-Wan Kenobi, lo cual la verdad nos dio mucha risa. Dejemos que sean los mismos fans y youtubers los que nos expliquen su molestia con Disney en los siguientes clips de videos.
First, here's Disney executive producer LaToya Ravenel.
Our leadership over there has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda. And
that's right, Disney has quite the sexual agenda with your children. Is it wrong to have any kind of sexual agenda with children? Well, if you're a pedophile, the answer is no. We'll have the full report tonight on how Governor Ron DeSantis is protecting children and the rights of parents, and how Disney is trying to do the opposite in the name of inclusivity. Where do we begin? The nation's #1 governor, who has no respect for the rights of pedophiles, apparently, signed the Parental Rights in Education bill into law. It prevents teachers and educators from sexualizing children, grooming children, and influencing them with any kind of sexual discussion. This created outrage on the left. Shocker. It is so unlike them to get outraged about anything. As the Babylon Bee reports, teachers who insist they're not teaching your kid about sex also weirdly outraged by ban on teaching your kid about sex. So of course, in response to Governor DeSantis signing the Parental Rights in Education bill into law, we, the media, who have a 100% accurate track record in reporting, started a smear campaign about the bill, deeming it the Don't Say Gay bill. Because of course, Florida is trying to prevent the inclusivity of gay and trans people into society, right? Well, yes, that's what our narrative says. But what the truth says, which is becoming a very suspicious conspiracy theory at this point, is that the Parental Rights in Education bill prevents educators from discussing any kind of sexuality with children, K through 3rd grade. Gay, straight, trans, any of it. Turns out, Don't Say Gay is not in the bill anywhere. The left termed the bill Don't Say Gay in order to smear it. In the radical right concept called reality, it's more of a don't you dare sexualize my child, you pedophile motherfucker kind of bill. But Governor DeSantis hates gay people.
I don't care what corporate media outlets say. I don't care what Hollywood says. I don't care what big corporations say. Here I stand. I'm not backing down.
This does not sit well with Disney's sexual agenda for your children. Let's take a look at video footage of Disney executives that was leaked out and obtained by Chris Rufo, so you can hear it directly from the child licking horse's mouth.
I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to if you see anything queer in the show, I'm proud of them. But I just was no one would stop me.
And here's Disney corporate president, Carrie Burr.
We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads.
And here's Disney production coordinator, Alan March.
I've had the privilege of working with the Moon Girl team for the last 2 years, and they've been really open to exploring queer stories.
And here's Disney's diversity and inclusivity manager, Vivian Ware. Sounds like she's the one that really moves the needle forward on business, doesn't it? Take a look.
We no longer say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Yeah! Instead of using language that accurately describes reality, it's better to use a hallucinatory-based language that creates a mental fog so your children can't see the North Star of what's called reality. Come visit Disney's Marxist theme parks today. And for good measure, just because it's special, here's Disney executive producer LaToya Raveneau one more time.
Our leadership over there has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda, not at all secret gay agenda.
Secret gay agenda. Well, it's definitely not a secret anymore now that your footage got leaked out. But is Disney propagating a social incentive structure which offers children a sense of attention, safety, significance, and belonging, which lures them into believing that they are something they're not? No, of course not. They're doing this to children to be inclusive because that's a nice thing to do. And that's a good thing, right? Absolutely. And you know how pedophiles who lure a child down the basement might say, I was just giving them ice cream to be nice. We won't say that because that part of reality is not part of our narrative. Oh, and by the way, here is a person that represents the exact same agenda that Disney does and is trying to push onto your children.
I am offended that our children are not receiving affordable gender reassignment surgery along with hormone blockers and access to abortions. This alone is a threat to our democracy.
Is this set of values the North Star that you want affecting your children and guiding them? Or is it propaganda that infects degenerated minds that you want to protect your children from? I don't know. You be the judge. Cancel my Disney Plus subscription and sell all my Disney stock. Sweetheart, we're never taking the kids to Disneyland again. Ever.
Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 4. There's no defense of this episode at all. I'm not here to try and make it sound like, hey, there was some good parts of this episode that I enjoyed and it worked. This was a dog shit episode. It was terrible. It was terrible for a lot of different reasons. This show continues to spiral out of control. This whole thing was presented to be a story about Obi-Wan and Luke. And of course, we've got the bait and switch because Luke is non-existent. Luke doesn't matter because in Disney Star Wars, Luke Skywalker does not matter. But Leia is the most important thing in the world. Leia's the smartest person in the room. The 10-year-old Leia is smarter than Obi-Wan Kenobi. She's smarter than anyone. She's more relevant. She's more witty. She never makes mistakes, and she has all of the information. This entire thing is about Leia and about showing you that women were in the Empire. Women were relevant. We are here to right the wrongs of George Lucas and the 80s and all of the toxic masculinity, and to show you that men are terrible and every man is stupid and every woman is smarter than every man. That is exactly what's going on here. And to show you the greatness of Reva, the greatest, most bestest ever Reva. And if you criticize Reva, you are a racist. That's directly from Star Wars. They are doing everything they can to protect the garbage known as the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. There is no defense of this. Now, again, if you like it, that's fine. Whatever. I don't, and it's terrible. It's objectively bad. The writing is bad. The pacing is bad. It's boring. Nothing is happening. It's a lot of filler, and it has nothing but identity politics shoved into it, and it is designed to do nothing but make Obi-Wan Kenobi look like a useless man and show you how the women surrounding him are the great and powerful, and they are the most relevant, and they are the ones that are getting him through this tough time in his life. And without all of those amazing women, he would be nothing.
The Obi-Wan star Moses Ingram stands up to racist backlash. The Star Wars fan base is infamous for its toxic fringe, the loud minority of hypocritical fans that harass actors for daring to play their parts. Their criticism is overwhelmingly infused with sexist and racist commentary. They've chased actresses off the internet, mass bullied a literal child, and now are flooding actor Moses Ingram with racist messages after she appeared as the primary antagonist in the newly released Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Okay, well, let's get into this. Joining me now is the great Jeremy Prime with Geeks and Gamers to talk about this train wreck known as the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Jeremy, you are a racist because you don't like this show. I'm a racist because I don't like this show. You're homophobic, you're transphobic because, you know, if you don't like anything that Disney is putting out, that's just what you are nowadays.
Don't forget sexist. If you're going to call me the names that the internet calls me, let's not forget sexist. The racist accusations for the fans started before the series even released. Lucasfilm put fillers out there saying they were warning Moses Ingram that she might be facing racist backlash from the fan base. This is before it even released, because they knew criticism was going to be hot and heavy because she's not doing a good job in the show, and the show is just terrible altogether. Before I really was critical of Disney Star Wars, and when I was wanting to criticize it, I was just like, man, I don't want to be labeled a racist or a sexist, because just growing up, that was actually a bad thing to be labeled that. Now it just means this person disagrees with my opinion, so they're a racist or a sexist. So these words have no meaning. These once powerful words have no meaning.
Y ahora veamos este otro youtuber que tampoco es cristiano, pero nos llamó la atención cómo nombró su video Somos Legión, que es exactamente lo que los demonios le dijeron a Cristo cuando confrontó a un endemoniado, y que le dijeron que son legión porque son muchos. Igual veremos la analogía en la forma como Star Wars atacó en Twitter a quienes pidieron no promover sus agendas en una publicación LGBT, y cómo montonearon a la persona que siquiera quiso cuestionarlos. Estos youtubers se han dado cuenta de lo extremo que es esto, pero es que no entienden que estamos lidiando con algo más que simples personas forzando sus creencias en otras personas. Hay algo mucho más de fondo que tal vez no entiendan porque no conocen la dimensión espiritual de esta guerra.
Star Wars has come out and attacked the fans. Now that alone isn't new, but getting all of their Twitter followers to pounce on one singular person is, quite frankly, the entire story is disgusting. Now, it started with this, and quite frankly, I don't care about this or his response to it. I don't think that's the main story. The main story for me is how the Star Wars account then attacked him, got all of their fans to dogpile him in an attempt to shame and humiliate him into shutting up. Star Wars has a history of attacking fans over nothing. You probably know this story of when they first hired Reva, and they came out and said, for anyone who tends to make her feel unwelcome, we only have one thing to say. We resist! Now, obviously, resist has all of its roots in exactly the same thing you would expect, and that is why they made such an activist post. They also doubled down talking about how there's 20 million sentient species, so don't make a bad choice. Once again, Star Wars really putting the emphasis not on the entertainment, but on the tiny, insignificant thing that nobody cares about except them. This is simply them impinging Star Wars with their own personal beliefs. This is an external force taking Star Wars as the base and just wrapping it in their own beliefs, so everyone else looking at it from the outside can only see the person, only see the writer. There's no Star Wars there anymore because it's been completely covered. This is what the original tweet meant when they said don't make Star Wars political. It wasn't about what was on the page. They were saying they want Star Wars, and this isn't Star Wars. This is just an excuse for the writer to push their beliefs on other people. That is what they meant by political. And obviously, I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth. This is just how I would typically take that statement myself. But Star Wars responded in a way that you would expect for people that made Obi-Wan Kenobi, with two sentences which literally had nothing to do with the original statement. So get the first typically disingenuous point, which has nothing to do with his argument, and then you got Star Wars is literally in our name, which, once again, yeah, you can say that the wars in Star Wars were political, but it had nothing to do with real life, did it? It's a sci-fi fantasy in a place far, far away, in a time long, long ago, deliberately, so nobody could say it had anything to do with our real world. The problem comes specifically when you start to attack that fantasy world with your own personal beliefs because you're bringing our world into theirs, which will inevitably destroy the fantasy universe, as it always does and always has, and is likely one of the reasons why Kenobi is such crap. Besides the fact that you seem to be hiring people with literally zero talent. I guess we found out how the social media manager has a job. But don't worry, because they get told they're making a difference. Oh, don't you know Star Wars, the multi-billion-dollar corporation that could go out and start building schools around the world? No, don't worry, they're really making a massive difference on the world by drawing a cartoon and selling it to you to a profit. Yes, it's almost like the virtue signaling companies are just there to trick people into giving them money for a cause, which they actually don't give a crap about. But it had its desired effect when the Star Wars account of 5.9 million people started to all pounce on this little account of 21 followers. The media you consume isn't there to entertain you. The media you consume isn't there to be Star Wars. It's there to push what we want. It's there to push our own ideas. Imagine liking Star Wars and getting destroyed by its Twitter account. Yes, It is a horrible thing, isn't it? It's actually disgusting and repulsive that an account would actually do that to someone that likes Star Wars. The shame here shouldn't be directed at the person commenting. The shame here should be directed at Star Wars. How dare you do this to a person which is giving you your money? How dare you do it to your customer base? Who do you think you are? You may have 5.9 million followers, but you are there to serve us and give us what we want if you want our money. Your job is not to be in control here. Your job is to give people what they want. And after all that, Star Wars stepped it up a gear and just the mask fell from their face. They're not there to entertain anybody. It's probably why Kenobi's so awful. No, we're here to tell you how you should behave. It's now us versus them. Star Wars has actually put themselves into a friend-enemy scenario. Generally in IP, you'll have people that like it and people that don't. The problem that Star Wars has is a lot of the criticism that's coming at Star Wars is from people that used to like Star Wars when it was good. Whereas now it's been taken over by people that would rather push a message on people, rather be activists than entertain. This is the revealed truth of inclusivity, where they think that actually inclusivity is only inclusive if it excludes everyone we don't like. It's not about inclusivity. No, just like many of these words, they don't actually mean what everyone else means. No, they mean its antonym. When they say Star Wars is for everybody, they mean it's for us. People who agree with us, people who are aligned on us, people who are part of the tribe, who are willing to signal that they're part of the tribe. Just like we'll signal it. They don't actually care about any of this. It's just a message, a sign that, no, don't worry, we're on your side. Now give us all of your money, despite the low quality of content we're actually giving you. Who's we? And there's more of us. Why? Because it's an intimidation tactic. It's an intimidation tactic that you should up because you're on your own. And if you don't, then all these people are going to come and they're going to attack you. They're going to humiliate you. They are going to make sure that you understand that you are straight up humiliated and shamed. And so why would I care if there's more of us? I don't care how big your tribe is. I'm going to stand up for and speak about what I think is right, what I think is good. And if other people don't like it, that's fine. They're fully willing to disagree. They're always entitled to be wrong. But there is a problem when companies come out and start attacking people, when companies come out and start threatening people about how many people are standing against others. When companies come out and start dogpiling people. When companies come out and start insulting the fans. When companies come out and start attacking the people that they want money from, then there is something wrong. Because an individual, a person, isn't a company, and a company isn't a person. It's an entirely different institution. An abuse of institutional power is an entirely larger and more serious matter. Star Wars can come out and say there's more of us. It can come out and humiliate its fans. But it's not going to stop me talking about it. And it's not going to stop me laughing at every single piece of tripe you produce. Because I don't care how many of you there are at Star Wars raging at anger. Because it turns out that Star Wars and their massive new fans is defeated exactly the same way as most things are nowadays. You just have to say no, and I don't care what you say. I'm going to speak out anyway.
Ahora veamos cómo la misma agenda se presenta en la película Lightyear de Pixar.
Whenever you do something about representation or diversity or whatever, there's always pushback. How would you counter that, I suppose?
Well, the real truth is those people are idiots. I think throughout history, you can see every time there's been social advancement as we wake up. The American story, the human story is one of constant social awakening and growth. And that's what makes us good. And when that happens, there's always going to be people who are afraid and unaware and trying to hold on to what was before. But those people die off like dinosaurs. And so, I think the goal is to pay them no mind, march forward, and embrace the growth that makes us human.
I would say to those people, just like with Buzz, refurbish your idea of tradition. Understand that it's to infinity and beyond. It's time to move forward. It's time to accept and look and enjoy all the faces that have always been there. You know what I mean? They always been a part of the picture. You just try to paint them out. So that's also what this is about. It's about this is what it looks like. This is what it's always been, and to infinity and beyond.
Yes.
Me están diciendo que Andy, a mediados de los 90s, con casi 7 años de edad, vio una película donde sale una negra lesbiana dándose un besote con una mujer que es su pareja, y vio a un soldado espacial que no hace nada heroico. Al contrario, él con sus cogniciones preestablecidas causa todos los problemas de la película. Lo que sí han hecho los miembros de la producción es insultar y criticar como retrógradas a todos los que no piensan como ellos. Te ponen a un masculino blanco que debe de construirse de sus viejas ideas y solo así entenderá a los demás, ya que con sus ideas conservadoras menosprecia a los novatos, pero al final termina adorando a la tripulación más novata y mediocre. ¿Y qué creen? Pasó el primer fin de semana y las ganancias de la cinta fueron lamentables. No le ganaron en taquilla a la película de Jurassic World que muchos han destrozado. Es una película cargada de propaganda ideológica. Ahora, cuando critiqué a Miss Marvel y su serie, muchos pensaban que exageraba, que la serie no era progre y recurrían a los insultos, como mejor saben hacer. Hoy en día ya salen a decir después del capítulo 2 que la serie es de las menos vistas en la plataforma de Disney Plus. Así que aunque salen muchos críticos ahorita a decir no, es que Lightyear es la mejor del momento, no se preocupen porque vamos a ver cómo se venden sus figuras, vamos a ver al final de las ganancias, si es que no las infla Disney, el resultado final de esta cinta.
When Chris Evans, the person who absolutely no one was asking to replace Tim Allen as the voice of Buzz Lightyear, decided to go out and attack the fan base just prior to the release of this movie, you knew that it would spell bad news for Lightyear, and that's absolutely what it has been. Just days after Chris Evans goes public and says you're an idiot and you're gonna die off like the dinosaurs if you don't agree with the identity politics that are being pushed by Disney into their movies for children, this was the end result. Disney's Lightyear flops at the box office following Chris Evans' comments on the same-sex kiss, and it wasn't just here in America, it was all over the world. Of course, this did get banned in several countries that Chris Evans apparently thinks you're just an idiot if you hold any of those beliefs. But this is a movie that was expected to do massive numbers at the box office, and with the $200 million budget coming off a Toy Story 4, which made $1 billion at the worldwide box office, everyone was expecting similar numbers for this. Unfortunately for them, it's been a complete and total disaster. And to bend the knee in the name of identity politics and virtue signaling and diversity and inclusion. And as we so often find out, when you decide to prioritize all these things ahead of storytelling, when you decide to bend the knee to the woke mob, when you decide to cater to these lunatics on Twitter, it will not work out well for you in the end. Of course, the result has been a drastic loss of stock price for Disney. Even though we're going through some bad financial times in general right now in this economy, when you look at how much Disney has underperformed the rest of the stock market, it is clear that people are rejecting the woke nonsense that is coming from this multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Bueno, como comentamos, todos estos fragmentos son de diversos youtubers que no se identifican como cristianos, y en este video quisimos usar sus comentarios puesto que la agenda es muy evidente. Por nuestro lado, estuvimos muchos años metidos en los engaños del enemigo de una forma o de otra, y viviendo programados por el mundo. Ahora que vemos las cosas a través de la palabra de nuestro Creador, podemos identificar más claramente las agendas. Pero si te cuesta hacer caso porque crees que los cristianos exageran, esperamos que abras los ojos viendo que no solamente nosotros vemos estas agendas, sino que ya hay muchas otras personas que se están dando cuenta. Vamos ahora a relajarnos un poco de toda esta serie de clips de video que fueron algo densos, con un poco de humor, sin dejar de lado este mismo tema del que estamos hablando. Verás una junta de trabajo entre la lógica, la ideología de género, el feminismo y la teoría crítica de la raza. Les prometemos que esta será una conversación que, aunque parezca de broma, se parece demasiado a la realidad.
All right, everyone. Welcome to our strategy session. We are the heroes that have been tasked with saving the world from the division and hate that have been plaguing it. But how are we going to do it?
Well, I think with the problem of racism, we can solve it by teaching people that they're inherently bad based on the color of their skin. And also segregating people based on their skin color.
Ooh, I like that.
Like how now the NFL will be playing a black national anthem and a white national anthem before games. It's a good first step in creating more division. Yes, that's a great idea. So good. I'm not sure that's gonna work. What do you mean? Well, I don't think what you're proposing is gonna help racism because it is racism. You know, like what you're proposing is to judge a person based on their skin color, not the content of their character. Yeah? Well, that's the opposite of what Martin Luther King preached, which was to judge a person based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Oh, what? So you think just because you're a man, you can be educated? Yeah. Leave it to a white guy to bring up Martin Luther King. He's not white. I identify him as Korean. And you know Koreans know nothing about Martin Luther King. Look, what I'm doing isn't racism. I just don't think you're following me here. So let me explain. What I'm saying is that certain racial groups are superior and other certain racial groups are inferior. Yeah, that's racism. You just said the definition of racism. Look, I've got it printed right here. I identify as illiterate, and it is hateful to try to get our community to read things. Literacy is racist. Quit being so hateful, man. I hate you because you're a man. See? That's the kind of love we need more of. Okay, moving on. What's your idea for helping the world? I am transgender and non-binary. Amazing. Thank you for your contribution. So you're transgender and non-binary? Mm-hmm. That's great, but did you know those are two opposite things? So you can't be both at the same time. How dare you? Well, no, I mean, you're obviously a great person, but what if we could stretch our minds into objective reality for just a second? Transgender means you identify as the opposite gender you were born as. And it means you're possibly willing to go through surgeries and hormone treatments because you identify as that gender so much. Yeah? And being non-binary means you don't identify as any gender. And you're saying you're both of these at the same time? Yeah? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Whoa, you're just attacking her because she's black. She's not black. Ask her. Are you black? I do identify as black. You'll never amount to anything because of your skin color. I don't think you're black. I'm a man now. F you. Now I'm a woman. You go, girl. Look, I realize your cisgender privilege clouds your reality, but if you would just stop overthinking things, you'd realize your objective reality should be based on my imagination. Does that make more sense now? I identify as you, and it makes sense to me. Great, I'm glad you understand. Okay, but how does what you said help the world in any way? Are you kidding me? Just because she's a woman, you don't think— Man now, I hate you. Woman again. Just because she's a woman, you don't think she's helping the world? You misogynistic pig. It's not because she's a woman. Oh, so it's because she's black? No. So it's because I'm non-binary? Look, clearly his misogynistic brain doesn't get it. But here's what I'm doing to help the world become a better place. I'm teaching women that it's disempowering to have children and raise a family. I hate the nuclear family. But that's the most powerful thing any person could ever do. And I simultaneously teach women that they can be empowered by going out and earning just as much money and achieving just as much status as a man. Love that. I'm both. Yes, Logic? You got a problem with that? So you want to empower women by getting them to think that their pathway to happiness is through money and status? Yes, exactly. Even though we all know that money and status can't make you happy? Yeah. I think how you're trying to empower women disempowers women. I don't like all this racism. And what's your point? I don't think that actually works. It doesn't work? Can't you see my rage that I push these ideas forward with? That means I thought them through. So of course they work. Why are you homophobic? I'm not homophobic. I bet you wouldn't be afraid to be phobic if she was white. She is white. Racists think everyone's white. Your masculinity is toxic. What? You were racist. No, I'm not. I bet you would be if she was white. I love your Korean heritage. I'm not Korean. Is that because you hate Koreans? Or just Korean women? Or just trans Korean women? Neither. My testicles itch. Wait. What if we teach that all babies are born racist, transphobic, and they hate women. I love it. That's so true. I feel like more of a victim already. I don't understand why babies are born with so much hate. We should mandate abortions. Stop it! Just wait a minute. Now I think you're all good people with good intentions, and I love you all. But I think the way you're going about trying to help the world is hurting the world, creating more division. And I think your efforts have been fueled by emotion, rage, and reactivity. But if you guys just think things through, use some logic, I think you can come up with a set of actions that will genuinely help the world. Because underneath your emotional hostility, I think you're all smart people that can come up with some good ideas. You think we're smart? Yes. Really? Yes. Do you have any idea how uninclusive that is to the mentally impaired community? Mental impairment is rooted in racism. You clearly think he's smart just because he's a man. I identify as mentally challenged. As a white man, you need to realize how you've oppressed her. You should be ashamed of yourself. I identify as blind. And I'm deaf now. Oh my, you've lived your whole life like this? What? I can't hear you. Adversity. It's been so hard. First white people stole your vision, and then they purposely made you deaf all this time, and you will never amount to anything because of your skin color. Then men took your hearing, it's not going to be okay at all. We are so
Para despedir este video, solo nos queda una pregunta a resolver. ¿Qué podemos hacer al respecto? Como familia o consumidor, puedes pegarles a estas empresas que promueven las agendas woke en el único lugar donde más les duele, el bolsillo. Cancela tu suscripción a sus plataformas, no vayas a ver sus películas, no compres sus productos y advierte a los demás de todas estas agendas. Si trabajas en una empresa woke, exprésate. Habla con tu área de recursos humanos, expresa tus opiniones. Sabemos que mucha gente tiene miedo a perder su trabajo, pero finalmente esta es una situación parecida a lo que se narra en la Biblia que pasó a los amigos de Daniel que no aceptaron inclinarse ante una estatua. Tienes derecho a expresar lo que te causa preocupación, y si no te sientes escuchado o escuchada, busca otro trabajo. Ellos son los que finalmente pueden perder talentos valiosos si se cierran a no escuchar. Si eres un profesional en recursos humanos y en tu empresa has implementado la agenda LGBT, nos gustaría que veas este breve clip de video que proviene de un noticiero.
Tras la decisión de la Corte Suprema de Estados Unidos de derogar Roe vs. Wade, The Walt Disney Company indicó que cubrirá los gastos de viaje de los empleados por abortos. Según The Washington Post, Disney cubrirá los costos de viaje por planificación familiar para cualquier trabajador que no pueda acceder a la atención donde vive, incluyendo las decisiones relacionadas con el embarazo. A través de un comunicado, Disney Company reconoció el impacto del fallo del Tribunal Superior de Estados Unidos, razón por la que se comprometieron a brindar acceso integral, atención asequible y de calidad para sus empleados, miembros del elenco y sus familias, sin importar dónde vivan. Además de la pronunciación de Disney, hubo otros anuncios similares por parte de Netflix, Paramount y Sony, quienes subrayan el papel inusual de las empresas en la salvaguardia de los derechos reproductivos. Un portavoz de Netflix mencionó al medio Variety que ofrecerá una cobertura de reembolso de viaje para los empleados estadounidenses a tiempo completo, además de sus dependientes que necesiten viajar para recibir tratamiento contra el cáncer, trasplantes, atención de afirmación de género o aborto a través de planes de salud de Estados Unidos. Mientras que el director ejecutivo de Paramount Global, Bob Beckers, y la directora de personal, Nancy Phillips, enviaron un memorando a su personal donde confirman las intenciones de cubrir gastos a las empleadas que deseen abortar. Por otra parte, los empleados de Sony en Estados Unidos recibirán un reembolso por viaje si es necesario para acceder a los servicios de atención médica disponibles en su plan de salud, incluyendo la atención médica reproductiva.
Nuestra pregunta para ti después de ver este corto video es: si en un futuro parte de las prestaciones de la empresa a sus empleados son ayudas financieras para que vayan a abortar a un bebé inocente, ¿serás parte de eso? ¿Lo promoverás como una buena práctica de recursos humanos? Si ya abrazaste la agenda gay, ¿abrazarás también el aborto de niños en el vientre materno? Como la chica del testimonio dijo, las personas en el área de recursos humanos tienen la enorme responsabilidad de cuidar el bienestar de los empleados, y para ello siempre hay que preguntarse realmente cuál es su bienestar y cuáles son imposiciones del movimiento woke. Gracias por acompañarnos en este video y que Dios les acompañe y cuide en cada momento y decisión de sus vidas. Nos escucharemos muy pronto.